of course, you all have to join, right? Well, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for trusting TechUp. Thank you for doing your courses, applying and everything. It's lovely to have everybody on board. And a beautiful welcome to Hamilton Conford. It's very lovely to have you here with us this afternoon in Nigeria time. Sorry, right? So this is 1:37 in Nigeria time. I don't know what time it is wherever you are, but a very warm welcome. Morning, afternoon, evening, midnight to everybody. Okay, so I'm Tech Up Africa, but my name is Florence Anu, right? And it's really my pleasure to be working right beside Joy to moderate this session. Okay, so let's all set. I'm not sure we can exactly see my face, yeah? Don't worry, by the time I would have to on video my video or something, I would properly position myself so we can see my face. But till then, forgive me. Thank you. Okay, so that would move right on. I mean, we're some minutes behind schedule already. All right, so let me just welcome and bring up our mentor for today. So it's my utmost pleasure to welcome Hamilton Conford to the stage. He is a seasoned software engineer with 8 years of development experience. Hamilton brings a wealth of knowledge to our Tech Up Africa mentoring program, specifically to the AI track. Hamilton is the co-founder and CEO of Bantu Labs Technologies. He has demonstrated exceptional leadership and innovation skills. His achievements have not gone unnoticed, as evidenced by his recent recognition as the World 200 CIO Summit Award winner in 2024. That's so beautiful. Okay, so we are extremely excited to have Hamilton share his expertise and insights with us today. Please join me with lovely virtual applause in welcoming Hamilton Conford as it prepares to inspire and mentor us as Tech Up African participants. Can I see our virtual applause, please? Oh, yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much. So I think over to you, Hamilton.
Oh, thank you, Florence. Good afternoon. I didn't think if there is anybody still in the morning, then I'm sorry, but accept the good afternoon greetings. My name has been told to you, Hamilton. Um, First of all, I fear titles. So moving forwards, I'll prefer just Hamilton. No any other thing added on top of that. Um, then I think this is something that Joy and Anne will do. I think that there are questions that are in the chat box, so but perhaps you'll be responding to them.
Yes, yes, we will.
Joy reached out to me. We've been talking about all this, and today I had something specific to talk to you about that you all know. So today for our first session, it's all about AI. You know, demystifying AI is one of the things, the power of data, the ethical considerations, and we'll finish with the impacts before we welcome have the Q&A session. So just to go first, perhaps for the interest of time, and then I'll give us time to ask questions and everything. So if at all in my talks you have a question, I'd appreciate that you just write it down. Then during the Q&A session, you can raise your hand, then we get to discuss your question. So, yeah, what is AI? That is the first question that someone will ask, and we all know what AI really is. Um, AI essentially, AI essentially is the simulation, of the human intelligence in machines, and these machines are those that can perform tasks that typically require human cognition, such as problem solving, learning, reasoning, and decision making. So anything that does that falls under the broad aspect of artificial intelligence because it is not the human intelligence that we are not used to. And perhaps we might wonder about the evolvement of AI up to where we are currently. Um, Perhaps if you haven't known, AI has been in existence with us for the last 70 years. And throughout the 70 years that it has evolved um, way back from the 50s. There's a period between the 50s and the 80s that it wasn't that much advanced, where mostly they were just they were calling at that time, until presently, the expert systems. So that first era of AI, the researchers were aiming really to make computers think, quote unquote, by defining the explicit rules for decision making. And then so we can call it or term it a rule-based artificial intelligence. And this kind of artificial intelligence at this period was majorly built using the if-then logic. And then the system really had a predefined set of instructions and had really no learning data to accompany it or to make it better. And the experts used to manually program the knowledge into the system. And as we're aware, this came with a lot of hard work. And so the expert systems, as the famous systems during that era that were AI oriented, were called, were programs that were really designed to mimic the human decision making, as I have said, and they were in specialized domains. So that is where we have the MYCIN that appeared in the 70s and the Dendral that appears in the 60s. The Dendral was a system that really helped, especially the chemists, the scientists, in analyzing the molecular structures. And when we got to the 70s, when we got the MYCIN, that started helping, especially the researchers on bacterial infections, etc. But then, as they were doing this, the scientists realized that it had so many limitations. The rule-based AI had so many limitations. One is it lacked a lot of adaptability in the sense that it could not improve with experience. So it was also very much hard to scale because it had so many rules. And these rules at that time made the systems to be very much slower and rigid in their performances. And the systems were very much, they had high costs of maintenance. And they're also time consuming because the experts had to like manually update these rules in the systems. And so the period called the AI winter in the 70s and 80s occurred, especially during after these problems that were encountered with the first batches of AI. It occurred because the rule-based AI really failed to deliver the human-like intelligence that people wanted to see in the computers. And this led to reduced funding and also interest in furthering the development of the AI. But then as that slowed during the 70s and the 80s, from the 90s, there was a pickup. From the 90s to the early 2000s, there was a very serious pickup. Things to do with machine learning people started getting serious with machine learning, and the revolution with the statistical approaches came into artificial intelligence. And so the era between the 1990s and the 2000s really marked a shift from the explicitly programmed roles to AI that could really, to an AI system or AI systems that could learn from data. As I said, the previous ones were not that much adaptable. So from the 90s, when now we saw the machine learning getting, sorry, machine learning getting into play here. So instead of relying on the hard-coded rules, the machine learning algorithms were better because they could be used to analyze large amounts of data, and they could detect patterns by instructions that were given and relationships, and also they were able to make predictions or decisions based on the training data that they were given. And this shift really came because there was much increase after the winter, the AI winter that happened. Um, there came a period where there was an increase in computational power because people made everything better. And the things to do with the processors became faster. That helped this growth. And also there was much growth and interest in digital data. Like the internet got much accessible and the databases became much available. And so the shift really had to be there. And then there were advancements in statistics and the probability models that came into play during this time. Perhaps because of the interest of time, we won't speak much about them. Perhaps maybe the popular machine learning techniques we've heard about there is the supervised, the unsupervised, and the reinforcement learnings, where the supervised is really the models, cases where the models learn from labeled examples, like the spam detection in emails. Unsupervised are now the models that find hidden items in data, like customer segmentations when you're doing, for those who are doing large marketing um, works. And then there's also reinforcement learning that entails learning through rewards and penalties. Um, if for those of us, because I believe we've read a little history of the AI, we've heard about the AlphaGo that was mastering the board games from the penalties and the rewards that they were getting when it was playing this game. So from there, then from the 90s, the 90s and the 2000 is where we got a lot of breakthroughs with the IBM coming with the Deep Blue. That is I think that was in 1997, yeah, where an AI detected defeated really the chess champion by then called the name Gary Kasparov.
Kasparov.
Yeah, Gary Kasparov. That was using the combination. The system was really using a combination of rule-based logic and machine learning. And with these events, much interest was gained by researchers, especially the scientists, researchers in the technology field, and there was a need to make things better. And then we've heard of the super vector machines and the neural networks that came in the late 90s to the early 2000s that laid the groundwork for deep learning that we are even much interested in even till today. And then these days we can enjoy the real world applications of machine learning in fraud detection, in banking, the speech recognitions that we see even from the early versions of Siri, how it has evolved and perfecting, even the Google voice, how they're perfecting. All those are, the real world applications that we can see out there for of machine learning. I mean, and then the recommendation systems also. Remember the Amazon you may be like feature. Those are the real world machine learning applications that we see. And then from the 2010s till now, we are seeing a lot of deep learning, the large language models, generative AI, and things are just getting better and better when it comes to the artificial intelligence world. So the deep learning revolution really turned into AI into really what it is today, and it has been capable of understanding language and generating art and even driving cars, as we see. A good example is the Tesla cars that are self-driven, and and deep learning is really just a subset of machine learning that uses the artificial neural networks um, that are mimicking the human brain, and also these networks, the networks also process very massive amounts of data in learning complex patterns. And so, uh, with all these, we find the progress um, that gives us the urge to continue. Um, oh, sorry, the urge to continue doing research in these fields. So, when we talk of things like AlexNet, the GANs, the transformers, where we have the transformers, where we have the foundation of the modern language models like the OpenAI's ChatGPT. These are things that, these are some of the breakthroughs or the good things that we see they're coming about from deep learning. And there also the serious rise of large language models, the LLMs, like what the OpenAI did in 2018, um, you know, with the ChatGPT 2022 when it came, and I know it for some of us who perhaps during that time were doing, especially the online writings and whatever, it disrupted the market a lot, but it's for the better. So yeah, that said, we realize that really AI is in everyday life, and it is something that we can't, right now, we can't avoid it. We have smart assistants that we use, the automations of jobs, the real-time translations that even help us to communicate, even in languages that we don't understand, and other things that these real-time translations do. And, you know, we also need to really think about things to do with ethical, having the ethics side of looking at the ethics side of the ethical side of AI, and things to do with addressing the biases, the misinformations, and the safety and the concerns of AI. Then, when you talk about things to do with artificial general intelligence, which uh, has really not been much explored, um, we really need to start thinking of how, or think of the pursuit of AI that can think and learn really like humans. I know there are some things that we've seen out there, but they're not as efficient as if perhaps we can get proper fundings. These things can be. So we've talked about machine learning a little bit, and deep learning. We've handled about that. So then there is natural language processing, which is essentially the AI's ability to understand and process the human language, um, like we see in the chatbots, the voice assistants like Alexa and Siri. When we also have things to do with computer vision, which is now the ability of AI to interpret images and videos. As we see, as I said, in self-driving cars detecting obstacles, and AI-powered medical imaging. And then now that I already talked about the generative AI, which creates new content based on the learned data, where we have the ChatGPT, the deepfake technology, etc., etc. Um, so when we talk about these the core AI concepts and subfields, when we talk about machine learning, um, the deep learning, the natural language processing, computer vision, and generative AI, we realize that there's so much, even in just these five, that perhaps we haven't really utilized. Because come to think of it, when you talk about, for instance, natural language processing, I think Africa that has perhaps over 1,000 languages, we have maybe I can bet my money uh, tops 20 languages that at least these systems can analyze and understand. What does that tell you? Instead of running to do perhaps some other things that trying to copy what other people have done, how about we start thinking of, also ensuring that just as the West, the East, and the Centrals, that is the Europe and the Scandinavia, have done and ensured that almost all their languages can be understood by the computer. How about us in Africa? Because we have a lot of unique cultural and diversity and very beautiful languages. How about we also invest in things like ensuring, by use of natural language processing, we ensure that when our languages can be understood by anybody anywhere in the world, just as these other guys are doing. Because right now we have the resources. We can talk of marshalling things together and getting to see. For instance, you look at even Duolingo, for instance, that is used for language learning. The African languages that are there are very little. Swahili and what else? Is it Yoruba? And just a few other languages that are here and there. And when in a country like, for instance, where I come from, we have 43 tribes that speak very fluent African quote unquote languages. How about we make that just a thought for you to think about? And then things also to do with, especially things to do with uh, the generative AI. Just to speak a little about that. Most of us have shifted so much into generative AI. Everybody wants to build a chatbot, want to do this and this, make get systems or develop systems that can generate AI generated images, etc. But then, should we also just all confine ourselves into that category? When we see when we see things like that are being done with uh, when Altman and OpenAI group brought ChatGPT, we thought Silicon Valley was doing best until recently when DeepSeek came along. How about we also, as the African techies, come and make our own generative AI tool that perhaps has more data from Africa than what is there in these models that we are trying to use and incorporate in our systems. Um, sorry. So yeah, that is there. And as I said, we cannot avoid AI in our real lives, rather in our day-to-day lives, because we see it in healthcare with the AI-powered medical diagnosis, like uh, the cancer detecting X-rays or the personalized treatment plans based on the patient histories. Um, this is also in this healthcare. We as Ubuntu Labs um, have a system that they're finalizing its development. It's called Afya app. It's a telemedicine app that also comes with the wearables that collect your vitals, and then it gives you medical recommendations on diet and everything that you need to do to optimize your life or to make it better. So we need to think about life going that way and not relying really on every other thing that would perhaps one be time wasting or costly, because not everybody can afford that. And we see also AI in finance with the real-time analysis of transaction patterns when we do fraud detections in banking, the robo advisors providing investment advices. However, mostly in Africa, and I'd speak with a very, very serious interest in a few countries that I've gone to, and those from Kenya, where I stay. Um, we have these AI driven detection systems in the banking sector, but still we find that we still don't trust that whatever we built are not good enough. There are some banks, for instance, here in Kenya that would not allow some kinds of transactions when you, the bank owner, is even there presently. They'll have still not there presently. I mean, they have your details and they can even prove that that is you when you get a video call with them and you get to speak with them. But then they still can't do transactions because there are some things that have to be done manually. If we do that, we're getting ourselves back into the analog world instead of automating things and ensuring that we use um, the biometrics and everything to automatically ease our transactions, and we can do that very much well in ensuring that we avoid fraud in the banking industry without us having to move around and being inconvenienced because of our geographical locations. Um, but I'm glad that when it comes to entertainment, I'm seeing and hearing even very great improvements. The kind of music that we produce these days, not just the drums and the guitars alone. These days we have entertainment becoming more beautiful every day. Even music, not just music alone, even art and even the movies that we produce these days, at least. Even those, sorry to say this, those movies from a Joyce side where people appear from nowhere. At least these days they make it a little realistic than the ones that we used to see when we were young in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. So that makes us proud that we're making a step. Um, but and then also the beautiful thing that happens in Spotify, Bluetooth, Bluetooth, sorry, YouTube and Netflix, where we have personalized content considerations or recommendations that will come. I think this is also something that Facebook, the Meta Corporation, is doing actively right now, and even the X Corporation. So it's good that AI is being used well in these areas. Um, just as in transportation, where we have Tesla and the Waymo, the security and governance also, it's good where we see the smart policy, um, the facial recognitions, the crime pattern detections, and also, sorry if I'll be mentioning Ubuntu Labs a lot, but we have a program that perhaps we'll roll out a little later this year with the government of Kenya, where we're having um, a smart policing system where we are going to uh, curb crime and reduce the crime rates at a very significant rate. And perhaps soon, when it's rolled out, we'll have the privilege to use it for those of us in Kenya, and maybe other governments can borrow that. Um, and also the AI-driven governance and public services, where we have predictive analytics for policy making. And I know and understand that our governments, especially in Africa, are a little rigid. But when we have these recommendations, with and have the opportunity to meet these people and give them these recommendations, we can then, even when they are rigid to what extent, they can then open up to um, to really understand, or rather, really embrace the awesomeness of technology. Yeah. So I know I've talked much about that, but I think that is all with AI, the demystifying AI that we're supposed to talk about. Um, Quick perhaps to the power of data. You know, artificial intelligence basically is anchored on data. Without data, we can't have artificial intelligence. And not just data, we have to have quality data. So we have to understand that even the most advanced AI models will still fail to perform effectively if we don't have quality data. I remember last year we were having some uh, conference, we were talking about artificial intelligence, and the question was, why do we have to rely uh, on data that we all know as Africans that are biased from the West, but then we still do them to train our models. Then one thing we realized is we have a lot of data in Africa. Like, uh, I still believe that the data that are stored in books or in non-digital formats in Africa uh, can match those from the West and Europe combined. But then they don't get to be used because they're stored in wrong formats. So what should we do? We need to learn, or we need to be good ambassadors of data, in the sense that we should be encouraging our peers and everybody we interact with to have this data stored electronically that can be accessed by anyone in whichever place they are. And if this is done this way, then we can get to points where the data that is from Africa by Africans, that is not biased in any way, when they get to these models, then we realize that the information, or even the information that we get uh, out of the AI systems that we use, will be much more accurate than what we're seeing right now. I'd give an example with just on data, not artificial intelligence, but a while back there was a loud cry of when Kenyans were claiming that the Wikipedia guys decided to one, they said Lupita Nyong'o, who is a Kenyan, was a South American, and then just before that they claimed that she was Tanzanian. So you see, most of this data, if we don't then have to battle this biasness and have true data in them, when this data are used to train the models that we're going to also use in our systems, then we're going to also, as people who are in Africa and know our history and everything that happens in Africa, we are going to be in a position where we are consuming knowingly the wrong data in the name of for me, I know the truth, so let me just choose this. But then that should not be the case. There's a generation behind us who perhaps would not be privileged to know these things firsthand, who will be relying on the data that we have stored or we have approved to be stored in these systems. And when they consume that, and if it is false, then we are going to deviate from our lines, or rather our walks of life, and then get to embrace very, very wrong information that would lead us to being in a position where Africans don't understand what Africa is, which is way, way much terrible. We can attest to that. So yeah, that data is a fuel, or rather as the fuel for AI. The models don't think. I think that was made clear when we were starting. They don't think like humans. Instead, they learn patterns from large amounts of data. Now, the quality, the quantity, and the diversity of the data determine how well the system performs. That is why when I was introducing the talk about data, or the power of on the power of data, I talked about the essence of having quality and quantity data, and it has to be diverse from each and every single, even the minority of the minority tribes or regions or whatever, and unexplored. We should have their data also incorporated the in what the models are going to consume for us to have that accurate information that we need to see when we now want these artificial intelligence systems to perform whatever we tell them to do. So when we are handling data, especially with artificial intelligence, there are some aspects of AI training using data that we can just mention briefly about the training of the data. Now, when you talk about training of the data, this is where now the AI learns from labeled examples. For instance, the image of cats versus dogs. I think that is the most talked about example, when this comes to mind. And then once we train this data, we have to validate the data. We validate it uh, to ensure that we tune, yeah, and optimize the models to the best levels they can get using what we have at that time as data. And then there's testing, like the data testing, uh, which is used really to validate how well the model generalizes to unseen data. Now, remember I told you about the project that we were talking about, the telemedicine, the e-health and telemedicine product that we have at Ubuntu Labs. Um, we are building a system that can analyze patient records because it has that feature of adding these past medical records, uh, so that it predicts um, not just from his own medical records, also from whatever people are other people are feeding into the system. It can then help predict a disease risk or an outbreak risk for this person. Then tells them, you need to take caution because there might be. And that does not necessarily is not supposed to send fear, but gives you an edge, um, or rather an advantage, so that when it happens, you're at a position where um, you can safeguard yourself and your family. So, if the training of this data is biased, let's say, for instance, the data is mostly picked from people in the urban areas or the urban patients, then the model may not be performing well for those in the rural areas because, uh, let's say, we've collected a lot of data from people uh, from the urban centers, and then we see a trend that would kind of look like there might be a cholera outbreak. When you tell that to somebody in the remote areas, and he talks about, I got this alert, then the whole village will be in panic out of wrong data or other unbiased data. So that is how much data is sensitive when it comes to its use in its incorporation in artificial intelligence and trying to better our lives. So the data has to be very, very much accurate and precise in all ways. Yeah. So we really need to understand how, and not just how, but when to use it, and really where to. Yeah. And so another thing is, when we talk about data, it's the type of data that can be used in artificial intelligence systems. We find that the AI systems use different types of data. Um, as I said, the structured, the unstructured, also the semi-structured, which is a mixture of both, such as those from the emails or the JSON files. Um, and I believe maybe in one way or another we've used text analyzers, summarizers, and the citation generators. Um, there is an element of artificial intelligence that these, some of them use, not all, that analyzes unstructured text from, let's say, a PDF. Then it generates a summary of these. And so when we are building these simple um, apps or whatever system that we're building, we need to understand the kind of data that we are using, and we need to also, in our development, understand how best we can extract the most information out of um, the data that we are getting. Um, and as I said also earlier, data has to be collected. After its collection, it has to be cleaned, then it is prepared before an AI system can use it. The process is really crucial reducing biases, and also improving accuracies. Now, after this is done, is when now we can say that we have a system that perhaps is a little accurate enough to be used in the real world. And so the collection, the cleaning, the normalization, the labeling, the augmentation has to be top notch. Um, I believe we all know what this means. The collection, which is basically gathering, then with the cleanings involves about removal of errors and duplicates and inconsistencies. Then we have things to do with normalization. That would be standardizing data formats, like maybe date formats, etc. And then there's labeling. There's labeling where we have the annotation data, like the annotation of data for the supervised learning models, and then the augmentations where we create synthetic data to improve diversity. However, this comes with some little challenges, especially when it comes to the data. When it comes to data collection and preparation, we have the biasness that we talked about. In a case where the data set is unbalanced, like in cases where the data is containing more male than female voices, perhaps the AI model may appear to favor one gender or another. And these days we're living in a very sensitive world, for instance, where such things people can start making noise about, and then things to do with the missing or incorrect data. This is something serious, especially in healthcare, where perhaps there's some missing patient records that can lead to very much inaccurate diagnosis, and then that would lead to wrong medication. I remember there was a case way back in uh, with one of the national hospitals in Kenya where somebody was put on ARVs for like 8 years, or whichever, I can't remember the years very well, but was put on ARVs for a very long time and they were okay. Another case was someone who was put on TB treatment for also a very long time by actually our leading uh, public hospital in Kenya, until they realized that this guy never had TB from the beginning. That just tells you how much incorrect data uh, can mess people up. And then also the privacy concerns with the data protection and all these where the personal data sometimes is compromised. So we have to ensure that it is protected on transit and at rest from misuse and leaks from any attacks that might come or malicious approaches that might be made on them. So with that in mind, let us also briefly look at really the relationship between the data, and how do you call it, the model performance. Yeah. Now, we remember GIGO, the garbage in, garbage out principle that applies. Really, it also applies in AI. So if you feed a model with poor quality data, it will give you unreliable predictions. So the garbage that you give into it will rightfully be thrown to your face. And so we also need to understand that more data does not mean that we're going to have a better AI model. Rather, more accurate data will guarantee a much better AI model. So a lot of data will improve the performance, but it is only if it is diverse and of high quality. If not, it will just be, as we call it in tech, garbage. And then things to do with data biases and fairness. Um, Biased data will lead to biased AI. For instance, especially with the facial recognitions, we find when it's trained mostly on light-skinned faces, it may perform poorly on dark-skinned individuals like myself, because to it knows people who are milk yellow, maybe, but not jet black like us. So to ensure that these things are done, for instance, we have to ensure the fairness uh, in the analysis. We have to rely on training data on diversity and ensuring that there's no biasness that would lead perhaps to um, what's the correct term? Profiling. Yeah, you've heard especially these these Westerners who are racist. When you the cops and everything, when somebody talks of you're profiling me. So we will also feel profiled when they train the models, those who are doing especially things with face recognition, train their models with light-skinned people. And we're like, oh, okay, we are also neglected. We need to fight for our rights. We start saying, uh, Dark Lives Matter, or which one should we say? So that will not be not black. Um, yeah. So when you talk of the real-world applications of um, AI and data, we see it in healthcare. As I said, when it helps with disease detections from X-rays. Um, we see it in finance with fraud detection systems. In agriculture, uh, we see like AI crop, like the yield predictions or the weather and the soil data that helps with how well or like help the farmers to estimate perhaps what they might get in a year. Um, and then in security, where maybe there's predictive policing, which uses the past crime data to identify high risk areas, the potentials for bias. And if not clearly trained, then we might have issues when it comes to all this. Then, just briefly, I still believe that the securities sector is not well much. Maybe you'll tell me when we'll be interacting further. In the security sector, we've not really used data and artificial intelligence much, apart from the things with facial recognitions and the biometric scans and everything. I still believe there are so many ways that there's so many aspects of data that we can use in training these models to thwart crimes and reduce their occurrences. In agriculture, I'm glad that even right now there's so many venture capital firms that are trying to encourage people in Africa, especially to adopt smart farming. And I'd also continue to echo that smart farming is not about having a drone spraying chemicals on your farms in the African farmlands. It's more than that, just as we've talked about giving it data to predict crop yields, etc. When you give it data on weather, the soil, etc., you can get this. But then how much have we utilized that? And even us as who are here, I believe the mentorship is more of talk, but then what do we do outside this? Then when we talk about these things and highlight perhaps situations where there are issues that we see are underutilized, do we then go and make this a project that we want to work on? And if you're incapacitated, you can then look for help from elsewhere and get to build a system that would help Africa to be food secure. Realize that Africa, with all its abundances, we still rely. My country still relies on rice from donated rice from Russia that the president says that he is subsidizing, and yet he was given for free. And you wonder, we are in the tropics and we get a lot of rain. So that should speak volume to us. And so when we are handling data, we have to understand or have in mind the best practices that we should need to know when handling data, especially in AI. In AI, we We need to consider its diversity and representation, ensure that the data reflects all groups fairly. These I've talked about from the beginning of this talk. And the privacy and security. We need to follow the data protection laws, lest we, on our search for data, breach other people's rights. And then there has to be transparency. So we need to clearly document the data sources and the AI decision-making processes, so that if at all there's another group after us that would want to improve this, then they will get well-documented information that they are to improve on. And then we need also to have serious data governance with serious policies on how data is collected, stored, and used. Without these, we'll have cases where there's data theft, then which will lead to a lot of breaches in every other aspects of life. And before we know it, we will lose artificial intelligence, because it'll be like the people who want to advance these are going to the streams of stealing our data or misusing it, which should not really be the case. We understand that to most of the people out there, a tech guy is not a good friend because they can get your information at a glance. Anyway, that aside, the considerations. Wow, we have 1 hour. The considerations when it comes to the ethical considerations when it comes to artificial intelligence. Let me start by saying that AI has really immense potential to transform industries, but also we need to ensure that the ethical concerns are addressed. And this is done to ensure, as I said, fairness of all things. And then there's accountability and responsible deployment. When we talk about biasness or the bias and the fairness in AI, someone would ask, what is bias in AI, really? AI models learn from data. And if the training data then contains biases, then the AI system may inherit and amplify them. Now, bias in AI can then lead to unfair treatment of individuals or groups, reinforcing social inequalities and a lot of imbalances that we can have when we fully rely on the data that we get, that we used to, that we get, or the information that we get from the AI system that we're using. Now, I'd give example with a hiring algorithm. Some AI-driven hiring tools have been found to favor male candidates, for instance, over female candidates due to biased training data. And some also favor more female than male because those who perhaps trained them have the mentality of affirmative action, where the lady has to be given an upper hand. And so, you see, with such kind of things, then will you as the hiring team that is using AI to perhaps filter the first, do the first filtering of candidates, then you shall have lost a very good potential employee just because the AI system you're using was trained by either a biased person who had a very biased mentality when he was writing his code, or a very biased data that was fetched from God knows where. Now, also another example would be that the facial recognition, where we've seen so much in our personal lives, perhaps, that sometimes when you have a facial lock on your phone, sometimes the phone decides to say that you're not the person whom you're saying you are, and they just refuse not to unlock. So these facial recognition systems have often really misidentified people uh, of certain, especially ethnic backgrounds, and these have led to concerns about the racial bias in law enforcement, etc. Even in our personal personal engagements. Uh, I remember when I first bought a phone that was using facial recognition software. So the phone decided to tell me that I was not visible. I was like, oh, yo, not visible. Until I got to the sun, literally outside, outside. Still, it could not see me. I decided, oh, okay, so this thing needs light people. So we also need to have, um, we really need to get serious when, no, not serious, but we need to get careful when we speak of these biases and trying to curb them and ensure that there's no, um, for the lack of a better word, there's no leaning on one side or some sides and ignoring or neglecting the other sides. Um, in the healthcare AI, we've seen where AI models are trained on the Western medical data. Then now when they're brought to Africa, because to them Africa is a dump site, majorly, they, they fail to diagnose these diseases accurately for people in the African or the even the Asian descent. And that is why uh, we were interested in AI and anything data. I've always been crying loud that let us get our data out there. Anything that will not compromise your security, get it out there and let it be used by those who are training these models so that this can help us. And so, as I've said, let's try to ensure diversity. A very diverse and representative data sets. Let's try to uh, have regular bias audits and fairness assessments on on the data that we use to train our models, and try as much as possible to liaise with authorities to uh, implement fairness aware algorithms that really detect and correct biases. And when we do this more and more and make uh, data more available and more efficient, it's then when we'll realize how efficient and awesome um, technology is in our lives. Another thing we need to consider when we talk about AI and data is the transparency and let me check my notes. That should be transparency and explainability of data. Transparency is important because the models, especially for those that we use in deep learning models, function as the black boxes. I got that from the aerospace guys. They are the black boxes, meaning that their decision-making processes are not easily interpretable. Now, this lack of transparency can then lead to either mistrust and or ethical concerns that, especially in high stakes fields like healthcare and finance, and maybe in criminal justice, and this would then perhaps render this awesome tool um, unusable and unnecessary in those fields. Um, for those of us who have seen the other side of life, where you have to rely on those loans from apps, you see now sometimes the AI algorithms just deny you money, and you're just poor, you're just one supper, you know. So the AI algorithms that are used in banking, even with the with the loan lending apps, may deny you loan without really clear explanations. and making it very hard uh, for applicants to understand why they're rejected. I remember a case where one day I ran out of money and everybody I was calling wasn't picking. And I get to a police, not a police station, but a petrol station. You need to fuel your car, and no one is picking. I get to these apps. The first and the only time I used those apps, uh, I requested, I think, uh, I don't know how much would that be in Nigeria, around 2,000 shillings. I was told I was eligible for 500 shillings, Kenya shillings, that is. Now, when I requested for that 500 Kenya shillings, they had me to wait for, it was around 5 minutes, and then rudely tell me that I'm not eligible for their loans. I was like, okay, so how did this come about? Um, and that was 6 years ago, and I said goodbye to those things. See, let's enjoy our poverty when we are poor. No, our brokenness when you're broke. So it's because these things are not done, perhaps, as they should. Um, Another thing where maybe the loan approvals could be made better actually when we use when the AI algorithms are used or rather are using accurate or much more updated data than what they some have. Even when we talk about the autonomous vehicles or the self-driving cars, the decision to make split-second decisions in emergencies. So they should prioritize the driver's safety. Now, should they really, I'd not say my decision here, but maybe we'll comment about this, but should they prioritize the driver's safety or the pedestrians? In a situation where one has to feel some pain, what would really be the case? So should the pedestrian go or the driver go and damage the car? We should try for us to also curb this this maybe English has decided to go back to England to curb these perhaps situations where you're split or you're decided on what to do. We need to understand now the essence of developing explainable AI, the AI techniques that we talk about, that perhaps we've heard of about out there, so that we can make AI decisions very much interpretable. One, so that at least when, for instance, when I was denied loan, I was supposed to be told why. I was just told it was not right at the moment. So why? That should happen. Another thing is we should also try moving forwards to implement more and more the AI governance frameworks that make transparency reports. And then we use these reports to better what we're doing. Another thing is perhaps that it's coming into my mind is using the human in the loop systems where AI decisions are reviewed by humans, because another thing that we have to accept is there's not a single day where AI is going to replace humans 100% unless you want a chaotic world. So we should still, as we are doing currently, and even more, implement the human in the loop systems and have a human there who can reason, have empathy and everything to, review these decisions and inform the systems to make better decisions when they interact with such things in the future. And so quickly, on accountability and responsibility, we should also need to understand who should be responsible when an AI system fails. um, because when it fails, they can make a very, very much harmful or discriminatory decisions. So who is supposed to be held responsible or who should be held accountable? Is this the data provider or the data processor, etc., etc.? Is it the developer, the company deploying the system, or the AI itself, or the people who gave the developers and the company their data to be processed? And so these are significant ethical and legal questions that we need to also, as people in AI, juggle and get to see. Um, for instance, if a self-driving car crashes, is the manufacturer responsible, or the software provider, or the person in the vehicle who is responsible? Or if an AI misdiagnoses a patient and then they suffer harm out of this misdiagnosis and the wrong prescriptions, is the hospital, the doctor, or the AI developer liable? These have to be really, really talked about and get to see. Then quickly thinking about the job placements in the future of work. When now that gets to things to do with artificial intelligence and automation, which is the double-edged sword. People can say such. So you have to understand that while it creates new job opportunities, it also leads to job displacements as automation replaces certain roles. Um, and we have industries like the manufacturing and logistics, customer service and finance being at the highest risk. The three are having the highest, feeling the highest weight of AI and automation coming in. Um, so people should understand that to really address this, people need to be upskilling and reskilling the workforce to work alongside the AI. One, two, implement the policies, AI policies that promote human AI collaboration rather than the full automations. Because at the end of the day, we need our peers who are not in the tech world to also have something to eat and show how to dress. And also the government or the corporations investing in AI and education um, should invest actually in AI education and training programs to help not just the few who have that interest, but almost everybody who does something uh, using technology to understand how to use AI. Um, so that maybe when an AI system is brought into their field, they don't remain clueless and hence being sidelined. And then the other thing is about privacy and data security, where there are risks of mass surveillance and the data exploitations. Um, we have to understand that the AI really relies on vast amounts of data, but then improper data handling can lead to privacy violations and security risks. And there have been concerns, as I've talked about, and with the facial recognition, where governments and companies were using AI, the AI powered surveillances are raising concerns about the privacy violations. There are data breaches where AI models trained on sensitive data like the healthcare records and the financial transactions could be hacked or misused. And then things to do with personalized advertising, where the AI-driven targeted ads sometimes exploit users, the user data without their consent. And this is seriously breached by the Meta Corporation. Um, if you have been keen, especially for the last 2 years. So my thought on solving this, we need to implement strong data protection laws. Two, we need to use techniques like federated learning, where now the AI learns without centralizing personal data, and also encouraging organizations to adopt ethical AI principles that prioritizes the user privacy. Um, and AI in law enforcement and governance. Now, there's a risk of AI. There's a risk of AI-driven policy and decision making, in the sense that the governments and the security agencies, um, the governments and the security agencies increase increasingly like use AI for crime predictions and surveillance and governments, but then this comes with risks, with potential problems being in predictive policing, where the systems are predicting crimes or uh, that are predicting crime hotspots can reinforce racial profiling, especially in multi-racial places like the US or whichever. Then automated sentencing, where AI-driven legal decision makings may lead to unfair rulings due to biased training data. For instance, in the US, where it is always presumed that a black man is guilty before proven not guilty. When you try to automate systems, then you'll end up with jails being 90% African Americans. And then we have things to do with smart policing apps. While they might be beneficial, like perhaps what we are doing we're trying to do with the government of Kenya, these systems also need to safeguard. Uh, they need safeguards to ensure misuse. Uh, in the sense that um, just just give me a minute, please. There's some distraction here. Sorry, guys, I am back. Yeah, so I was talking about also the smart policing that also needs to be regulated to avoid misuse, and then you know, and so we need to have very serious and unbiased independent oversight committees to monitor these AI deployments that the government uh, or the people are doing. We also need to have very strict regulation on AI use, especially in surveillance and legal decision makings, and also the public involvement and transparency in AI policy makings. Um, and I'm glad most of these African governments these days, even when they pass laws in in the parliaments, they first get it out to the public for public participation, which is something that is very nice. So while AI presents very much transformative opportunities, the ethical considerations must guide its development and deployment. You know, then this should be ensuring fairness, accountability, transparency, and also AI should not be taken away from humans. We should be having a human-centered AI decision. If we do that, then when we are going to have a responsible AI future. But if we want to totally have AI stand on its own with its limited uh, limitations that we all know, then we are going to have a problem. We've seen these movies where perhaps a robot goes rogue and causes havoc. So imagine a situation where we have systems that go rogue on us, and what can they do? So we have to work hand in hand with them, and as we better them, we should also understand that they cannot stand alone, and we cannot replace every job around and have AI doing everything, even with those doing whatever virtual assistants and everything. Yeah, these days, uh, these systems are taking over. It can't be like that. We need to understand that a human touch with the person, especially who are reaching out to you, is much important than any other thing. Um, so just finally, very briefly, let me brush on AI's impact on society. Then we can have an interactive session. Yeah. Wow. AI is really transforming societies in very profound ways that we all know, with both positive and very negative implications. So when you talk about this, when you handle the positives first, uh, we see AI in healthcare, and it's really saving lives and improving access to healthcare. where we have AI-driven telemedicine uh, systems that allow remote diagnosis, consultations, especially in the underserved areas. And we see AI in diagnostics, where machine learning models can detect diseases like cancer from X-rays or the MRIs with high accuracies. Um, have you heard of Google's DeepMind diagnosing eye diseases? Yeah, that's another awesome thing that happens there. And then there's personalized medicine, where the AI models that we build then tailors treatment plans based on patient data and improving healthcare outcomes. When it comes to education, its positivity has also been felt, where we have personalized learning and accessibility, um, where we have AI-powered text to audio conversion that helps students with different learning preferences. And this is also like something that we are doing. We have a project with at Ubuntu Labs that is going to be rolled out in the next 3 months, that just makes education more awesome. And then we have adaptive learning platforms, where AI adjusts course materials to individual student needs. Like when you use Duolingo or the Coursera AI tutors, something that is interesting enough that when you get time, you can look at them and then you can get a project or two that you can do for yourself or for your community there. And then it also in education, it has also allowed accessibility, where we have the AI powered speech recognition, and text to speech assistances that helps the visually impaired students to also just learn as those who are visually okay. Um, in governance, we've seen it trying a little bit to enhance transparency, but we only have problems in Africa because the people who are behind these models are maybe bribed by the government, and so they can disappear with some data and just alter a lot of things. But nevertheless, we still commend where they've done well, um, where we see AI-powered reporting that can help the law enforcement respond efficiently and much quicker. And the people are also having the ability to even submit their evidences without passing through a human hand that is going to alter them. In e-governance systems, we've seen this. A good example is the Kenyan's e-citizen platform that has helped a lot with the only thing perhaps they need to understand to curb now is why we need to key uh, at the immigration office in Nairobi from 3 a.m. in the morning. But otherwise, it's a good one, where it has helped to automate and streamline government services. Um, We've seen it in fraud detection, where there's a county government in Kenya where they have a system that detects corruption patterns, especially in financial transactions. But then it has not been effective as much because the governor himself is very much corrupt than the people that are stealing money. So he knows the people who are stealing, then he goes and takes taxes from them. It's a good thing, but handled by very, very corrupt people. And that has caused a lot of havoc than it should, but we are giving the devil its due. AI also in business and finance, and here is where like a lot of people have gone to, where we have AI in banking, the automated credit scoring that allows access for loans, fraud detection and everything. Uh, and we're now coupled with blockchain technology and everything. Everybody these days are running into Web3, with blockchain and Web3, neglecting that Web3 is an efficient Web2, abetted by blockchain's transparency and efficiency. Um, then we have things to do with in transportation and infrastructure, where we have smart cities, like the one that was supposed to be started in Kenya, but people's stomachs became smarter than the city itself that was desired to be built. We have, though we can see autonomous vehicles, we can see traffic optimizations, um, but at least not in Kinshasa or Nairobi. Those have crazy, crazy jams. Well, I think I also experienced that in Lagos. Crazy traffic. Um, yeah, but in agriculture, as I said, there's some awesome, awesome things that are happening where there's people are getting interested in precision farming, where the use of drones, uh, using AI to analyze soil quality and the smart irrigation systems that optimizes water use is a very awesome thing. And at least when we employ that more and more, and we become tech farmers also, we can have food security in Africa, in our villages. When then we see also that with market predictions where AI predicts crop prices to help farmers uh, make informed decisions with where to take their crops to for selling. So yeah, we should start thinking of building agriculture apps, for instance, that AI can help farmers to get real-time data uh, on crop markets and weather. Uh, this is possible because, come to think of it, the radio stations, I don't know, maybe in other countries, but for instance, in Kenya, there are some certain times where they even talk about in such and such a market, a 90 kg tomato box was being sold at this price. So when we can have systems that can fetch this real time information and relay them to the apps, then the farmers, even before, instead of relying on listening to their radios and everything, can see the market trends and say, hey, let me take my crops or whatever to this place. And then they get to optimize uh, their income. And things to do with also coupling this, especially in agriculture, with the logistics, or having a smart logistic where, as a farmer, you produce and everything, someone buys, then we see, even now we even implement blockchain into it, then the products that are then tracked through using blockchains to uh, the buyer. The money is paid in to an escrow account that is only remitted to the farmer after this person then gets their crops. So there are a lot of things that we can think of in trying to make our lives better in those aspects that I've talked about. Um, However, as it as it has positives, it also has very negatives with things to do with biasness and discrimination or job displacement, people are crying of AI making them jobless. We have the privacy concerns with data, sorry, where we have a lot of data exploitations and the deepfakes and misinformations, where now there's a serious trust crisis. So the AI generated deepfake videos can spread even political uh, misinformation, and we see it everywhere. So those are some of the things that we need to be concerned about. So let's think about having ethical AI deployment, human AI collaborations, the privacy and data protection laws being taken seriously. And then we will enjoy the awesomeness of AI. And even as we were aspiring to be AI, or who are AI enthusiasts and are aspiring to excel more and more in understanding and using AI, we will then ensure that we have the very best out there for our people to use. So, Anne, no, not Anne, Florence, enjoy. I think I'll stop at that. Then perhaps we can welcome questions and we make it more interactive. I've talked for the last maybe 1 hour, 20 minutes or so.
Oh, wow. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. I've really learned a whole lot, even though AI is not like my track. I've I have learned a whole lot from what you just said. I mean, I feel like one thing that really stood out, I mean, from where you were talking about um, the importance of data in AI engineering. I'm so sorry for some people that probably didn't get what I was saying, maybe because of his accent. I mean, one thing you can do is you can just the recording will be made available, right? So you can always go back because Hamilton actually gave a whole lot of he gave all some tips that would actually help you even in your AI journey and even basic things that you should know even as you journey through AI. And one thing that even also he also gave amazing tips for innovations, right? So you can just be there, you know, I feel like one thing that beginners have, one thing that is like a concern for beginners is that they are usually concerned as to how they do not have projects to work on and stuff like that. But I mean, if you listen to what he said carefully, you would also see how he also gave suggestions, recommendations, or projects that I could look into. I mean, the last thing I even mentioned was working on, for example, now we know in Africa, one of our major legacy is, or one of the things that has helped us over the years is farming. So in Africa, we're majorly farmers, right? But yes, but we see how that farming, like one of the key things you mentioned, how that, okay, in Kenya, I feel like every country has that at this point. In Kenya, they're importing rice, which shouldn't be. But of course, when we trace down this issue, we'd also see that, okay, if the farmers also have access to these digital resources that we have access to, it would, in a way, better their farming inputs. And at the end of the day, they have good farm produce, and which at the end of the day would also increase the economic stability. I mean, one thing I also learned from this is we should not just be one straight jacketed when it comes to thinking about tech. You know, everybody just wants to come into the tech field, just want to work for one company abroad, one company in the US, and earn in dollars. But I think one thing is, even as we want to learn in dollars, earn in dollars rather, we should also touch base. We should also come down to even our economy and see how we can also solve issues in our country, solve issues in our in on the national level before we now even now start pivoting to international levels, right? So one thing that really struck me when he was talking about data, right? He mentioned how that the importance of data in AI, how that it's necessary for you to have use it's necessary for you to have the right information, right? Not just plenty information, because you can have plenty information and it's all just garbage, right? It's all just garbage. But he emphasized on the importance of having the right information, as those informations would help you would help you would help in having the right models when you are building your when you're building whatever when you're building your AI, right? When you have the right model when you want to implement it in any industry, whether in healthcare, whether in finance, and all of that. So I mean, I think this session has just really opened our eyes to see that, I mean, AI is not just for one thing, right? We've also seen how that AI is it can be implemented in every industry at the moment. I mean, every industry needs AI. You also spoke about ethical considerations to AI, right? How you have to also be careful. You have to consider people's data privacy, right? Not just people, the organization, and even country, even being security conscious. So I feel like personally for me, I've really learned a whole lot, right? I've learned a lot, especially apart from the importance of data. What really one thing that I think I'm so excited about for this session is, you know, the innovation suggestions that Hamilton gave as concerning what you can do or what you can what you can just think about, okay, now that I've learned AI, what next? What can I do? You know, while you're waiting for that internship opportunity, while you're waiting for that job opportunity, you can also find your hands around this project. It might not be something big, but it's one thing employers would also appreciate when you apply for jobs is your ability to innovate. So when they see that, oh, okay, even though this thing that you've built, it's not on a large scale, but the fact that it's a very good idea that would really sell and that would really help the economy, it's something they would want to buy and something they would it's something they would really want to look out for in their employees. So I must really say thank you very, very much, Hamilton. Thank you very much, sir. We've really learned a whole lot. Right. So I'd like to ask, does anybody have a question? Do you have any question, any concerns? Do you have anything you want to ask? Yes, Behanga. Kenneth asked for Mr. Hamilton's ask for Mr. Hamilton's LinkedIn. That would be shared on the group so you all can connect with him. And I'm sure you heard him talk about Ubuntu Labs technology. I mean, and him working on a telemedicine app. Yes, you would see details about that on LinkedIn. And yes, you can always reach out to him to ask him questions and just to ask him for directions, even in this AI field. So someone raised his hand. I think that was Idris. So please let me know if you have questions. Okay, yes, Idris, your hand is still raised. Yeah, do you have a question? Do you have a concern? Do you have something you would want to ask Mr. Hamilton? Let us know. You can just unmute your mic. Hi, Idris. We're waiting for you to unmute your mic, or just put your question in the chat box. Olariwaju's hand is also raised, so I think we'll take Olariwaju's question first. So
Yes,
Olariwaju, you can, yes.
thank you. Am I audible, please?
Yes, you are. You're very audible.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton, for the session. It was really impactful. Thanks so much. I just want to ask, I've been curious to know how AI can be beneficial in the telecommunication sector. I've read about medicine, the healthcare, I've read about finance, and I'm curious because I am interested in telecom, especially. I just want to know. I've read about the likes of the data science project or something like customer churn or something. But just beyond that, I don't know if there's a way or anything one can do around it. That's what I want to ask. Thank you.
Right. Hey, Joy. So should I respond to that, or you want to pick the questions first, then we respond to once?
Okay, that's the only question we have so far. So I think you can just go ahead and respond to that.
So okay. Yeah. I don't know if I pronounce your name right, Mr. Amudipe. Okay. So
Yes, sir. It's right, sir.
oh, awesome. So AI, yes, AI can be used, or rather, AI is already transforming telecommunications really by improving things to do with network efficiency, enhancing customer experience, and also enabling like the innovative services. I'd give you a few things to on what I've mentioned to think about. One is on network optimizations and management. Think about things to do with predictive management maintenances, where AI then analyzes network performance data and predict failures before they happen. Things to do with the SONs, the self-optimizing networks. Things to do with fault detection and resolutions, where we can have AI anomaly detections that helps identify and fix network issues faster even than the human engineers if it is not something that has happened physically, that maybe you now want to employ robots. So and just to make that better, go and perhaps check about how AT&T or Verizon use AI to monitor their fiber optics, and how they predict failures before they happen by use of AI. It's something that I've seen that they use. Another thing I talked about was AI-driven customer support, or with the chatbots and the AI, the virtual assistants. The sentiment analysis that analyzes the complaints and feedback to improve the services, and also the automated ticketing systems. Like that, I think this is pretty much used almost by every telecommunication service provider. So I don't even need to give you a specific example that you can look at. I believe it's everywhere. Then we have things to do with fraud detection and security, where machine learning models detect unusual usage patterns like the SIM cloning that is rampant in Nigeria and in Kenya. I see these days they're also getting to South Africa and a little bit of other countries like Uganda is also getting the bad manners from Kenya. Yeah, things to do with that. Then the spam and robocall filtering, where an AI can then block fraudulent or spam calls by analyzing call patterns. However, also, if you study deeper, you realize that this can be fast and you can still do it, but it's something that is working with the well-laid algorithms. It can help with that. Then we have things to do with cybersecurity and intrusion detections, where the AI then detects potential cyber threats and also prevents the data breaches in the networks, in the telecommunication networks, especially T-Mobile. T-Mobile has been number one in the usage of AI to detect call fraud and also preventing unauthorized access to customer accounts. And then we have the AI-powered data normalization. Sorry. We have the AI-powered data monetizations and the personalized services. So in this area, I think we've seen trends, or we should be seeing trends going in the whereabouts of AI-driven marketing and upselling, where the systems then analyzes the customer usage patterns to recommend relevant data plans and offers. I think this is something that is being done, especially here in Kenya. There's a service provider called Safaricom that are sisters to T-Mobile that uses this. Then we have things to do with dynamic pricing models, where the models help optimize pricing strategies based on demand, competition, and also the user behavior, and personalized content recommendations, where these telecommunication companies then use AI to recommend content, especially those who are into things to do with the live streaming services. Although not much here in Africa, with things with the IPTV and music streaming are not much in Africa, but yeah, there are things that we've seen there in Europe, in the Americas, it's there. And also now, when you talk about the 5G and edge computing enhancements, where we use it in 5G network optimizations, where AI then now uses then automates the 5G spectrum allocations, and also predicts the network congestion and ensuring like the smoother user experience. So this AI detected that once there's a congestion, then there's a transfer. So something beautiful that happens with when you use AI, and I hope you understand because I think maybe this is your specialty. And then things to do with the edge AI processing, where can talk about AI at the edge now reduces the latency for real-time applications, like when you're doing the gaming, the virtual reality or the augmented realities, and IoT devices. Then AI then makes it work better and better. And then lastly, um, things to do with autonomous drones, right, and IoT support. I think that is much self-explanatory. And with these, you can get into the programs that are offered by Huawei, I mean, and which other one? Yeah, Ericsson. Yeah, Ericsson. They really, Huawei and Ericsson have really used AI to improve their 5G network coverage and reducing the energy consumptions in those telecommunication-based towers that I've seen out there. It's they're long. We can talk of things to do with predictive analytics in decision making with the customer channel prediction, the network demand forecasting, automated decision making when it comes to that area, and then also things to do with enhanced voice and video quality with the noise cancellation and voice enhancements. We have things to do with the video compressions and speech recognitions. So there are a whole lot in the telecommunications that AI is doing or should also even make better. So yes, it is really revolutionizing telecommunications by making the networks smarter, one, and also improving customer experience, also ensuring and enhancing security, and also lastly, that I can think of top of my head is the optimization of operations, so that as the 5G, the IoT, the edge computing evolve now, then AI is and will also be playing even a bigger role in shaping the future of telecommunications. Yeah. Sorry, I've answered it in a lot of words, but I just wanted to make it clear for you.
I appreciate it so much, sir. I will investigate on the Ericsson and Huawei you mentioned. It's of interest. Thanks so much, sir.
No problem.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very Idris. I think you can mute your mic. I got your question and I'll answer it. It's quite noisy over there. Yes. So Idris was asking that what courses what courses can you take to be an AI engineer? So I just wanted to ask, are you on either of the groups, like front end and data camp, or data camp? On like which group are you on exactly? While I wait for your answer, so because we know that something like this can happen, when we were sending out the invites or onboarding emails, we also attached a learning path, right? And a what do I call it now? A document that has like the outline of course that you should take, whether you were whether you joined Scrimba platform or you joined the DataClamp platform. Both platforms have learning paths that have been curated and they include the courses that you should take. So I think you can just signify in the chat box what platform you're on, whether it's Scrimba or DataCamp. And the favor I would do to you is I'm going to share again the onboarding document that was shared. So the onboarding document has a list of courses or a list of or the career path that you should follow on the respective platform that you are on. But if you want, so that's it basically. I hope that has answered your question. Hi, Idris. I hope that has answered your question. So, okay, so I cannot hear you because it's quite noisy where you are. So, I'd prefer you use the chat box to say yes or no. And if you still need clarity on that, you can also send me a DM. I'm one of the admins on the WhatsApp group chat. So yes, I'm the one that has the profile picture where the lady there was wearing blue. So that's me, Joy Akintunde. So you can just easily check out for me and just send the message. All right. So do we have any more questions? I'm waiting, and I'm done. All right, Comfort. I must really say thank you very much for today. It was really beautiful. It was amazing, and we look forward to having more sessions with you. I think the next session you'd be reviewing some of their projects, right? Some of their projects. So yes, we look forward to having that session with you. And I'd like to ask, do you have any parting words for our learners? Anything you'd want them to look out for? Any advice from a wise AI sage like you? Yes.
No, I'm not that. So, but thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. Um, one thing is one thing we need to, if you need to take anything home, oh, some others have left. You need to take anything home is don't be a jack of all trades. One, two, pick your specialty. AI is vast, but then what part of AI do you want to concentrate in? And then make it your love, concentrate on it. Be the best. The world is getting competitive. I'm not going to, for instance, Joy is not going to give you a job because you're in a program with her, but she's going to give you a job because she sees that you're smart and you are the best in what you're doing. Um, so instead of looking for favors, let your name speak by being an expert in a specified field, and make it a personal commitment to be at your optimum best. Learn daily, have a routine, and before you know it, you'll be one of the forces to be reckoned with out there. Another thing is, this was the beginning of this. Maybe when with the guidance of Joy, as we move along, I'd wish that even apart from the project that perhaps that we're going to look at, with you, your project that we're going to look at in together, don't just think about the school projects. Think about something that uh, you can, maybe even an existing system that you can improve using AI and improve it and let it give you a shot at the big table. So when we learn these things, don't let us not learn them just for the sake of getting into the program, but use them to be something that at the end of the day will be generating a few coins for you into your pocket. What I've always done for the last now 10 years is I've known that I can learn even from a well-recognized, world-known recognized fool, because in them there's always something to learn from somewhere. So make learning your habit, and if you continue raking in knowledge, you'll get to a point where now you are at a point that you can share the knowledge that you have. So keep on keeping on, keep going. If you need anything, reach out, liaise with Joy, uh, and then we can see the way forwards on how we can help each other best. And do have a lovely afternoon, or is it evening? Yeah.
It's still afternoon over here.
we're at 17:26 over here in Kenya.
Oh wow, that's it. Oh, wow. Thank you for this sacrifice, actually. So that's what I can say. I really, really appreciate it. And please, can everyone give Mr. Hamilton a virtual applause for this session? Because he has really helped us. It can be at his office doing some other thing, attending to other urgent matters, but he has chosen to, take out time to speak with us, right? So yes, let's really, really appreciate him. And yes, I'll be sharing his LinkedIn URL on the on our WhatsApp group chat. I'll be sharing it on our WhatsApp group chat so we can all connect with him. Yes. All right. So thank you once again, Mr. Hamilton. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining and staying up to this moment. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see more of you in upcoming mentoring sessions. Yes. So I think that brings us to the end of today's meeting. So bye everyone, and do enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy Valentine's tomorrow.